Hello, welcome back to the Temple of Holy Beard. I'm Pastor Dave. Thanks for tuning in. This video is going to be a new segment that I'm part of a new segment that I'm wanting to get into. This is called News That's Not in the News. There's a lot going on in the world, and you may not be hearing about it all. Um, to be honest, there is too much going on in the world for you to hear about all of it. And it can be very stressful to try to keep up, not only because there's a lot going on, but it's a lot to cover. You know, the TV can't cover it in an hour segment, and you'd lose interest if you did. They focus on the important. Well, the closest wolves to the wagon. Anyway. Okay, a big thing that's going on right now that you need to be aware of is the war in Ukraine. And you may be thinking, hey, Pastor Dave, I'm not in Ukraine. I'm not in that area of the world. Why should I care? Well, you should care for a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons. And it's going to take a long time for me to explain that all, so I'm just going to hit on certain points, and I'm going to try not to ramble on too much. I'll do other videos in the future to try to keep you up on it, and we'll keep that going. But Ukraine. Big thing you need to worry about. And previous videos I've talked about supply chain shortages. And whatnot. And Ukraine is a key country. They're considered the breadbasket of Europe. I'm sure you've heard that before. Again, you may be saying, I don't live in Europe. How does that impact me? Well, Ukraine is also a big exporter of fertilizer. And so pretty much everywhere else in the world right now is being impacted by that. Because, fertilizer production in the United States and Canada, for example, are trying to also export to help out the other countries that's being hurt by Ukraine's lack of exporting. So the supplies are dwindling everywhere. And so farmers are trying to adjust what they can, but we have become dependent on these fertilizers and depleted our soil and whatnot. It's just not what it should be. So the lack of fertilization in the soil hits the crops, along with droughts and extreme weather in other areas, means that there's going to be a reduction in the food supply. There already is a reduction in the food supply. That's why I've been pushing so much in previous videos to stock up. Stock up on food. Now, don't be a hoarder. Don't go in and clear out the store, and definitely try not to attract attention to yourself. But figure out where you can get supplies locally that are off the mainstream path. Store a little extra canned goods, whatnot. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, the most important things in life are food, water, and shelter. And the order will depend on the situation. But everything that I'm about to talk about impacts you in one way or another, whether you know it or not. You just might have to think about it. War in Ukraine recently, one of the issues is the embargoes. The UN and all those countries have been putting embargoes on Russia to try to hurt them, to get them to back out of this war. And Russia's not doing it because they think they're in the right place and they think they're doing the right thing, and that's their choice that they had to make. But in retaliation, funny thing is, these UN countries are putting these embargoes in place and telling Russia that they can't export certain things, which include products necessary to build our rechargeable batteries for our renewable cars, our electric cars that are being pushed so much. So that's a shortage, as well as components that are needed to make electronics. So those are a shortage. Now Russia's kind of flipped the switch and said, well, you know what, it's funny because you want to embargo all of these things that I'm trying to send to you that you need, but you're not saying anything about this other stuff. This other stuff being oil and natural gas that these other countries are very dependent on. Well, Germany, for example, Germany's a big country, and they've changed a lot of their energy production to more natural resources, as they say. They've gotten off of nuclear, and they've gone towards electric, wind, and natural gas for their energy production. meanwhile increasing the energy consumption, needing more electricity. Well, guess where their natural gas comes from? Russia. And Russia's already turned it down a little bit, stating technical difficulties in the beginning. Now they've announced that they're going to tune it down more sometime in December. Europe's natural gas supply from Russia is going to be down to about 25%, which means that Europe is scrambling as it is, telling people to get used to not using electricity if they don't absolutely need it. But going into winter, guess what they heat their house with? Electricity and natural gas. If they don't have natural gas to power their electric plants, they can't produce electricity. And if they don't have electricity, they don't have electricity. So guess how they're going to heat their house? It's a good question. Anybody who can is trying to switch back to the old ways of using fire. They're using wood or pellet stoves or whatnot, trying to do it that way, but they're scrambling, and it's going to be a cold winter. Add to that on Monday this week, just a couple days ago, 2 more fertilizer plants, very large fertilizer plants that exist in Poland, announced that they have to shut down because they use natural gas in their fertilizer production, and they don't have the natural gas supply. And to a certain degree, them shutting down their production will allow more natural gas to go to heat homes. However, food, water, shelter are the most important things for existence. You already have a home. They're trying to to help out the grid so that people can heat their homes. However, if you don't have food, what are you going to eat? Think about that for a second. Now, next thing I want to talk about Ukraine is this money that's being sent from many countries to Ukraine. I heard some first-hand accounts, whistleblower reports, if you will, where coming from the individuals on the ground directly seeing it. Now, take it with a little bit of grain of salt. I don't know these individuals personally. This is word of mouth, but the information that's coming out is very plausible. They are saying the right things in the right way to where everything says that these are the people who know what they're talking about. So take it with a grain of salt, but for the most part, I don't see anything telling me to question it. You may have heard recently the United States announced that they were sending a certain number of $1 billion more money to Ukraine. Now, the boots on the ground are telling it's not money. They're not printing dollar bills and sending that dollar bill to Ukraine. They're sending equipment, and you've probably heard that before. Sending weapons, equipment, supplies, MREs, meals ready to eat, to Ukraine to help the citizens that are still there that are impacted, but also primarily to support the Ukraine fighters to fight against Russia. We are in a proxy war with Russia, like it or not, believe it or not. We are funding the people who are fighting against Ukraine, and we are directly arming them. Now, put yourself on the other side of the fence for a minute. Even though your country, may not personally have your own soldiers in that country fighting this war, you are giving weapons and training and knowledge, everything from a bullet and a Band-Aid and a sandwich, all the way up to major weapon systems, aircrafts fully armed, and more weapons for them, more bombs, more bullets, massive missile launchers, high tech. We may not be given the best and the latest and greatest, but we're given some pretty good stuff, and we're sending it over there. Okay, you may not have a problem with that. I get it. But let's think a little bit further. Where are those coming from? The first response might be, the government is paying the manufacturer to just spit them out. and they're spitting them out fast enough we can send them over there. They may be coming from a warehouse somewhere. It's common knowledge that every country has warehouses full of military equipment just in case it's needed. They are stocked up in case they need to defend themselves or what have you. So I'm sure a lot of equipment has been coming from warehouses, and I'm sure that's where a lot of it came from in the beginning. They purchased everything they could that the manufacturers have built, but the manufacturers just can't make 100 million overnight. It takes time. So they've upped production, but there's only so much they can do. It has to come from somewhere if you want to send it immediately. So think about it like that. With all the billions of dollars that have been sent out already in equipment, that equipment probably depleted the warehouses significantly. I'm sure that they've sent out fuel as well. It's well known that the United States strategic fuel reserve, strategic petroleum reserve, is very low. Last I heard, I might be off on this, but it's at something like a 37-year low at this point. And at this rate, when this batch is expected to be done, it's going to be very low. The reason for the strategic petroleum reserve is to have a stockpile in case there's say winter hits and we don't have the fuel for the power generators, for electrical generators. We don't have fuel for our military if we go to war. That's what that's there for. It's there in case we absolutely need it and we can dip into it. And if it's at a 37-year low right now, now think about where we were 37 years ago. There were a lot less people. Things were a lot different. So if we need to tap into it now for an emergency, it's not going to last very long. It was never intended to last long term, but it was intended to get us over the hump. At this point, I hope it's a small hump if we needed it. It just might be empty when we go to tap into it. But the bigger concern, that's a pretty big concern. You should be concerned about that. But another concern, going back on these weapons that are being shipped to Ukraine, a lot have been shipped over. Those emergency stockpiles in the warehouses must be getting pretty low. I've been hearing stories for a while of equipment that has been, our military has had stocked up, whether it's Humvees or tactical trucks or what have you, were painted green, in preparation for going somewhere in a forest somewhere. Were being painted desert colors. No, opposite. It was desert vehicles ready to go to Iraq and Afghanistan were being painted green, assuming to go to Ukraine. Over time, that equipment was being shipped out. Nobody said those boots on the ground didn't say where they were going. They just said they had orders to let it go. It was being sent out somewhere. Well, more recent stories are getting a little bit scarier. It's not just trucks anymore. They're not just taking it from a warehouse, something that was stocked up. They're literally taking the weapons out of the hand of the soldiers. Think about that. Special forces units that had the weapons that they need, that they use for, you call it everyday life. There are missions all the time that we don't hear about that are significant impacts to helping good people. And they are being ordered to hand over those weapons. An individual is assigned this, they use it every day. You got to turn it in. It's being shipped out. And it's known where it's going. These are high-tech, latest and greatest, state-of-the-art equipment that these soldiers greatly benefit from. Now, if it's gotten to the point that we are taking the weapons out of the hands of the people who are using them, you can use your imagination on what the warehouses might look like. Now, that's scary. And that's happening all over the place. These whistleblowers are coming out not just from one unit. It's not just one guy. These are people from different units in different areas of the country and different specialties. They're not just given the older stuff that we're not too concerned about anymore. They're given the latest and greatest technology that these people are using, that have in their hands, ready to go at a moment's notice if we need it. That's not good. That's not good. So not only are they going to something a little bit lesser that they now need to be able to, they need to use, but there's concern on what's available. If our country needs to go to war and our stockpiles are depleted, if our warehouses are empty and our soldiers' hands are empty, what are we going to go to war with? What are we going to use to defend this country? That's what you need to be concerned about. Again, like I said, in previous videos, what I said earlier in this video is, you need to stockpile on food, but you also need to start thinking along the lines of defending yourself. Now, crime skyrocketing in the country, that's bad enough. You absolutely need to think about what you're going to do to protect yourself and protect others that you can. But you also need to think a little bit larger terms. What happens if Ukraine spills over? Now, I've talked in previous videos about the BRICS Pact, which is the, if you will, the Axis powers, the Russia, the China, their friends are starting to join up, and they're starting to make their own UN type of agreement. And here in the U.S., one of the things I'm looking at is there was recently some training exercise between Russia and Brazil. Pull out a map and see where Brazil is in relation to the United States. And they did a training exercise in the ocean between the navies off the shore of Brazil. And add that together with other things that I've said in this video and start thinking about it. Should you be concerned? Decide that for yourself. Let me know in the comments. But there's a lot going on in the world, and like I said, reading about these first-hand accounts of the weapons being taken from the soldiers, that makes me concerned, thinking that our warehouses must be getting low if they're taking the weapon from our first line of defense. That's makes me a little uncomfortable. Add to that not only the U.S. but other similar countries. Anything that I say about one country, you can pretty much replace that with another country's name. They're pretty much all in the same boat. But the U.S. has been having very difficult time the last couple of years in recruiting, and current time recruiting numbers are very low, and they're getting to the point where the military is starting to lower the bar, lower the standards. Started off with, okay, you don't need a college degree. Well, college degree was never, I'm sorry, not college degree, but high school diploma. High school diploma or GED was a requirement. Now they rolled that back a little bit and said, okay, well, you don't need a high school diploma or GED. If you're willing to join, we'll put you into a program and help you get it. Okay, that's great. Help them out. Completely support that. Then they rolled it back and said, we really need people. Maybe you just don't need either of that. We'll work on it. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. They relaxed the tattoo standards a while back. In my day, in the early days, they weren't too worried about it as long as it wasn't anything gang related. And then, excuse me, over time they increased it and said, well, we don't want anything visible. You should be able to wear shorts and a t-shirt and nobody sees your tattoos. Okay. Then they relaxed it and said, okay, well, we're not too concerned. We still don't want it gang related. Well, now they got to the point where they don't really care what your tattoo is. At certain points, if you really wanted to join, they would actually pay for you to have that tattoo removed before you shipped off. Now they say they don't care. And I've actually seen that firsthand. Active duty soldiers with gang tattoos in very visible places. How do you feel about that? So, like I said, combined, we got shortages all over the place. The Ukraine war is still happening, and it's still hot. Might be getting a little bit hotter. I'll do another video but telling you a little bit more about that. But there's other things heating up in other countries. This BRICS is expanding. Even countries that aren't joining it seem to be leaning in that direction because they don't feel like they're getting the support from NATO countries who used to be their allies. Essentially, a lot going on there. This video is getting kind of long. I don't want to get too into it, but there are countries that were our friends for strategic reasons. They were in key places where a Navy ship could dock and refuel. They could dock and take a break, whatever. They were friendly enough to where they didn't mind. They would let them in. And one country just 2 weeks ago, something like that, just recently decided that they weren't going to do that anymore. And they didn't make an announcement in advance, nothing like that. They waited until a Coast Guard cutter got close and asked for permission to dock to resupply, refuel. And instead of an immediate, yes, come on in, it was, hang on a second, we'll get back to you. They came back with an answer of, no, this isn't a good time. And shortly after, a couple days later, their people got with our people and said, yeah, we're going to temporarily suspend any visits from your military ships. And at the same time, they're seriously considering a deal with China to let China buy one of their ports. China wants to build, I don't remember all the details on that, but they want to build a pretty significant port where their ships can come in. I'm sure it's going to be military ships as well as commercial or just military. But in exchange for allowing them to buy it for a lot of money, which could really help this country out, they're also offering military defense support. So if they have riots on the country or something like that, this country could call China and ask for some assistance in quelling their internal riots. At the same time, if another country is threatening them, China's offering defense for this country. That's a big deal, especially when the countries they've been friendly with have been slacking off. So there are more and more countries that are starting to change sides, and that's something that we need to watch. But don't put your head in the sand. If the mainstream media, if your normal media source stops talking about something, don't assume that it's gone. Do a little bit of digging for yourself. Feel free to ask me. I try to keep up on those things. We are in a time where you definitely need to be zooming out. Pay attention not only to what's going on, on your block, in your area, in your neighborhood, not just in your community, not just in your state, not just in your country. You need to zoom out a little bit and look for things that are going to spill over. And you need to be concerned about that. And like I've said before, start by looking out for yourself and your family. Your family is the most important thing. Once you're in a position where you can help out your family when times are tough, then see what you can do to help out someone else in the community. At a minimum, make friends with your neighbors. Make friends. Expand your community at a minimum of a social network, and try to encourage them to do a little something to be a little bit more self-sufficient, be a little bit more prepared in case of an emergency. You never know. It might be an earthquake or a hurricane. It might be a complete supply chain breakdown. It might be a complete financial collapse. Anything that you can do to take care of yourself, food, water, shelter, and defense, will make you better. But if you have a strong community, that's going to make it easier. It's going to make it a little bit less stressful. Help yourself, help others, be safe, don't panic, getting yourself mentally, spiritually prepared for this, getting yourself prepared for supplies, getting yourself educated. All of this will help to reduce the stress when it does happen. As supplies get shorter in the stores, if you've got a plan and you're calm and collected, it's going to be a lot less stressful. Again, don't hoard, don't worry about stocking, don't worry about going extremes. Don't put yourself in debt to do it, but definitely make sure that you have enough on hand right now to get you through tough times. Make the goal a year or more, year and a half if you can do it. That's awesome. But also be planning on how you can produce your own food. And if you make a community of locals, you guys can work together to help produce enough food for each other. You know, in a major collapse, your home is not going to get repossessed immediately. It's going to take time, so you got a buffer there. But food and water are important. Short term, you need it now. You need to have it. So prepare for the worst, hope for the best, be educated, be informed, try to stay calm, cool, collected, and let's work together on this. We will get through it. We will survive. We will thrive, and we will come out the other end better off for it all. Again, thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this video interesting and informative. There are more great videos to come. If you have a suggestion for a video, if you have feedback, if you have comments, questions, concerns, please put it in the comments section. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Again, I'm Pastor Dave. This is the Temple of the Holy Beard. Thanks for watching. Bye now.